There is a quiet kind of loneliness that not everyone understands. It's not the loneliness of having no one around you, it's the loneliness of feeling like no one truly sees you. If you've ever sat in a crowded room and still felt like you existed in a completely different world. If you've ever tried to explain what you feel inside, but the words never seem to land. If you've ever wondered why your heart carries a depth that others don't seem to recognize, then listen closely, because this may not be random. Many who walk the path of the chosen one experience emotional and psychological patterns that feel confusing at first, but over time reveal themselves as signs of a deeper inner awakening. Not superiority, not separation, not sensitivity to life in its rawest, most unfiltered form. One of the strongest emotional experiences many chosen individuals share is a persistent sense of being different from an early age. Not better, just different. As a child, you may have noticed things others ignored. The tone in someone's voice that didn't match their smile. The sadness hidden behind laughter. The tension in a room before anyone spoke. While others moved easily through social spaces, you may have felt like you were observing rather than participating, sensing layers beneath every interaction. This awareness can be overwhelming because when you perceive more, you also feel more. And when you feel more, life becomes heavier, but also more meaningful. This is why loneliness often becomes a companion on the journey. Not because you are meant to be alone forever, but because depth requires space. Many chosen ones crave connection, yet struggle to find people who resonate with the intensity of their inner world. Conversations may feel surface level. Social expectations may feel exhausting. Small talk may feel like noise when your mind is searching for truth, purpose, and authenticity. Over time, you may withdraw, not out of rejection of others, but out of a longing for something real, something that touches the soul rather than just passing the time. And then there is the question many quietly carry: why has life been so intense? Why have the emotional storms been stronger? Why do hardships seem to arrive not once, but repeatedly, shaping you again and again? Many who walk this path notice a pattern, experiences that break them open, only to rebuild them with deeper awareness. Pain that forces reflection, loss that reveals hidden strength, challenges that push them inward, where transformation begins. Trauma in this context often feels less like random suffering and more like intense training for emotional depth. This does not mean pain is glamorous or desirable. It is not. But some individuals emerge from hardship with an unusual capacity to understand others, to hold compassion without judgment, to sit with discomfort without running away. Their wounds become lenses through which they perceive the world more clearly. Where others see behavior, they see hurt. Where others see anger, they see fear. Where others see weakness, they see survival. This is one reason empathy becomes so pronounced. Many chosen individuals are deeply sensitive to emotional energy. They walk into spaces and instantly feel shifts in mood. They notice when someone is pretending to be okay. They absorb atmospheres without trying. Crowds can feel overwhelming. Conflict can feel physically draining. Even environments carry emotional weight. Certain places feel peaceful, others feel heavy, and the body responds before the mind can explain why. Being empathic is not simply about kindness. It is about permeability. Your emotional boundaries may feel thinner, allowing you to experience the inner worlds of others almost as if they were your own. This can be beautiful. It allows profound compassion, intuitive understanding, and the ability to comfort people in ways that feel deeply healing. But it can also be exhausting. Without awareness, empathy can become emotional overload. You may find yourself needing solitude not because you dislike people, but because your nervous system needs silence to reset. Another common experience is the sense of being an old soul. From a young age, you may have felt drawn to deeper questions. Why are we here? What is the meaning of suffering? What is truth? While others focused on trends or entertainment, your mind wandered toward existence itself. You may have felt strangely out of sync with your generation, relating more easily to wisdom, reflection, or spiritual ideas than to social expectations. Old souls often carry a quiet seriousness, not as heaviness, but as depth. They see time differently. They sense that life is fleeting and meaningful at the same time. They value authenticity over approval, growth over comfort, purpose over distraction. This mindset can make ordinary life feel surreal at times, like watching a play where everyone knows their role except you. because you keep asking why the play exists in the first place. And then there is one of the most difficult feelings to explain, the subtle sense of being watched, guided, or protected. Not in a fearful or paranoid way, but in a quiet awareness that you are not entirely alone in your journey. Moments of coincidence that feel too precise to be random. Sudden insights that arrive without logical origin. A strong inner voice that warns, nudges, or reassures. A feeling of presence during times of distress, as if something unseen is supporting you through the storm. This experience can be confusing because it exists beyond ordinary explanation. Some interpret it as intuition. Others see it as spiritual guidance. Some simply describe it as an inner knowing, a sense that life is communicating through patterns, timing, and subtle signals. Whatever the interpretation, the emotional impact is similar to deep awareness that your life has direction, even when circumstances feel chaotic. But here is the paradox many chosen individuals face. Heightened sensitivity brings both clarity and vulnerability. You perceive more beauty but also more pain. You understand others deeply, but feel misunderstood yourself. You carry wisdom, but sometimes wish you could experience life more simply, more lightly, without the constant awareness humming beneath everything. This tension can create periods of isolation, self-questioning, and emotional fatigue. You may wonder if something is wrong with you. You may try to suppress your sensitivity to become more like those who seem unaffected by emotional undercurrents. But suppression rarely works. Depth cannot be erased, it can only be integrated, and integration begins when you stop seeing these experiences as burdens and start recognizing them as signals of capacity. The ability to feel deeply is also the ability to love deeply. The ability to perceive pain is also the ability to heal. The ability to stand apart from the crowd is also the ability to see what the crowd cannot. Loneliness becomes reflection. Trauma becomes awareness, empathy becomes connection, old soul perception becomes wisdom. The feeling of guidance becomes trust in your inner compass. None of these traits mean life will be easy. In fact, heightened awareness often makes life more intense. But intensity is not punishment, it is expansion. It is the widening of emotional range, perceptual depth, and inner understanding. And perhaps the most important realization is this: being emotionally and psychologically sensitive does not mean you are meant to suffer endlessly. It means you are meant to transform experience into insight, pain into compassion, confusion into awareness. Your emotional landscape is not a flaw, it is a finely tuned instrument designed to perceive what is subtle, hidden, and profound. So if you have felt lonely, it may be because your heart searches for genuine resonance. If you have endured hardship, it may have carved space for deeper understanding. If you feel the emotions of others intensely, it may be because your awareness extends beyond your own boundaries. If you feel older than your years, it may be because your mind naturally moves toward meaning. And if you sometimes sense unseen guidance, it may be because your intuition is stronger than you were ever taught to trust. You are not imagining your depth. You are learning how to live with it. And the more you understand these emotional and psychological patterns, the less they feel like mysteries, and the more they feel like signs pointing you inward toward the unfolding of who you truly are becoming. As awareness deepens, something subtle begins to change inside you. What once felt like confusion slowly starts to reveal a pattern. The loneliness, the emotional intensity, the strange sensitivity to energy, the feeling of being guided, they no longer appear as random experiences scattered across your life. Instead, they begin to feel connected, like pieces of a larger inner transformation that has been unfolding quietly, patiently, often beneath your conscious understanding. And this is where many chosen individuals reach a turning point, the moment they stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this shaping me into?" Because emotional depth does not exist without purpose, sensitivity does not emerge without function, and inner awakening does not unfold without direction. There is a reason your perception operates the way it does. There is a reason your life has pressed you inward again and again, forcing reflection, forcing awareness, forcing growth even when you would have preferred comfort. Transformation rarely begins with clarity. It begins with disruption, with the breaking of old patterns, old identities, old illusions about who you thought you were supposed to be. Many people move through life building themselves outwardly, roles, achievements, social identity, expectations. But for those walking this deeper path, life often works in reverse. It dismantles before it builds. It removes before it reveals. It strips away what is false so what is real can finally stand without distortion. This process can feel disorienting because it challenges the structures that once gave you stability. Relationships shift, priorities change, interests that once defined you lose their meaning, and in the space where certainty once lived, there is only quiet and questions. But that quiet is not emptiness, it is space being prepared. One of the most profound realizations that begins to emerge is that emotional pain was never only about suffering, it was also about expansion of awareness. Each difficult experience forced you to perceive more, understand more, feel more. It stretched your emotional capacity beyond what it once was. And while this expansion often felt overwhelming in the moment, over time it built something powerful within you, the ability to remain present in intensity without collapsing under it. This is not something that develops accidentally. Many people avoid discomfort, suppress emotion, or distract themselves from inner experience. But when life repeatedly brings you face to face with your own depth, avoidance becomes impossible. You are required to feel fully, process honestly, and confront truths that others may spend their entire lives running from. This confrontation with reality, internal and external, refines perception. It sharpens intuition, it strengthens self-awareness, and intuition, once strengthened, begins to guide more clearly. You may notice that decisions start feeling different. Instead of relying only on logic or external advice, you sense an internal direction, a quiet knowing that does not argue, does not panic, does not rush. It simply recognizes what aligns and what does not. Sometimes this guidance leads you away from situations others consider normal. Sometimes it pulls you toward paths that cannot be logically explained. And often, following it requires courage, because intuitive truth rarely seeks approval from the world around you. This is why trust becomes one of the central lessons in this phase of growth. Not blind trust in circumstances, but trust in your inner awareness, the same awareness that has been developing through every emotional challenge, every period of isolation, every moment of reflection. The voice within you has been shaped by experience. It carries the wisdom of everything you have endured and integrated. Yet trusting yourself is not always easy. Many chosen individuals have spent years being misunderstood, dismissed, or told they are too sensitive, or too intense, or too different. Over time, this can create self-doubt, a habit of questioning your own perception, even when it proves accurate again and again. You may second-guess your instincts, override your feelings, or ignore subtle signals in order to appear more acceptable, more normal, more aligned with what others expect. But growth gradually reveals that denying your perception does not create peace, it creates disconnection. Every time you ignore what you sense deeply, you move slightly further from your own center, and the more disconnected you become from yourself, the more chaotic life begins to feel. Confusion increases. Emotional exhaustion intensifies. Direction becomes unclear. Reconnection begins when you allow your inner awareness to be valid, not perfect, not infallible, but real and worthy of attention. This shift changes everything. Instead of fighting your sensitivity, you begin working with it. Instead of fearing emotional depth, you begin learning from it. Instead of resisting solitude, you begin using it as a place of restoration and clarity. Solitude, in particular, transforms in meaning. What once felt like isolation starts to feel like alignment. Time alone becomes space where your nervous system resets, your mind settles, and your inner voice becomes audible again. You realize that constant noise, social, emotional, informational, was drowning out the quiet intelligence within you, and in silence that intelligence becomes accessible. This is also where many individuals begin sensing a deeper layer of guidance, not as something external controlling their life, but as an underlying order shaping their experiences. Patterns become visible. Timing feels intentional. Encounters feel meaningful. Even challenges begin to carry lessons that reveal themselves with time. Life no longer appears random. It appears responsive, not always gentle, but responsive. And this realization brings a profound shift in perspective. Instead of seeing yourself as someone life happens to, you begin seeing yourself as someone life is developing through. Every experience becomes material for growth. Every emotion becomes information. Every obstacle becomes a catalyst for expansion of awareness. With this shift comes responsibility, the responsibility to consciously participate in your own development. Awareness without action leads to stagnation. Sensitivity without integration leads to overwhelm. Intuition without trust leads to confusion. Growth requires engagement. It requires choosing to learn from experience rather than merely survive it. This is why emotional healing becomes such an essential part of the journey. Old wounds cannot simply be ignored once awareness deepens. They surface repeatedly, asking to be understood, processed, and released. Not because you are broken, but because unprocessed pain distorts perception. It clouds intuition. It drains energy. It keeps you reacting to the past instead of responding to the present. Healing is not about erasing memory. It is about transforming relationship to what has happened. When pain is fully acknowledged and integrated, it no longer controls your emotional responses. It becomes wisdom instead of weight, strength instead of scar, understanding instead of fear. And as healing progresses, something remarkable begins to happen. Your emotional energy stabilizes. Sensitivity remains, but it no longer overwhelms. Empathy remains, but it no longer consumes. Awareness remains, but it no longer isolates. Instead of being pulled in every direction by what you feel, you develop grounded presence, the ability to remain centered even while perceiving deeply. This grounded presence is what allows many chosen individuals to become stabilizing forces for others. Without trying, people may begin turning to you for understanding, comfort, or guidance. Not because you claim authority, but because your presence carries calm, depth, and authenticity. You understand pain without dramatizing it. You listen without judgment. You respond with clarity rather than reaction. But this role emerges naturally. It cannot be forced. It develops only after you have learned to hold your own emotional world with steadiness. You cannot anchor others if you are constantly unanchored yourself. So life teaches grounding first, then influence. And perhaps one of the most profound realizations of this stage is that being emotionally and psychologically different was never about separation from humanity. It was about deeper connection to it. Sensitivity allows you to understand experiences many people cannot articulate. Awareness allows you to perceive needs others cannot see. Compassion allows you to respond where others may turn away. Your depth does not remove you from the world. It prepares you to engage with it more meaningfully. By now, you may start recognizing that nothing you have experienced was wasted. Every moment of loneliness taught self-connection. Every hardship built resilience. Every emotional wave strengthened awareness. Every intuitive whisper refined trust. Every period of confusion prepared you for clarity, and clarity is beginning to form, not as a single revelation, but as a gradual understanding that your emotional and psychological experiences have been shaping you for something more intentional than you once imagined. You are not simply feeling life. You are learning how to navigate it consciously, how to perceive it deeply, how to respond to it with awareness rather than reaction. And this realization leads naturally to the next unfolding question. If all of this has been preparation, if every emotional shift, every inner awakening, every moment of guidance has been shaping you, then what exactly are you being prepared for? That is where the journey begins to move beyond inner transformation and into purpose. When a person finally realizes that their emotional depth, psychological sensitivity, and inner awakening were not random, a new awareness begins to rise, the awareness of purpose. Not the kind of purpose defined by career titles, social roles, or external achievements, but something far more personal and profound. It is the quiet understanding that your life has been shaping you for meaningful contribution, that your awareness exists not only for your own transformation, but for the impact you will have on others simply by being who you have become. This realization does not arrive loudly. It does not appear as a dramatic revelation or a sudden announcement from the universe. Instead, it emerges gradually, like dawn replacing darkness without you noticing the exact moment night disappeared. One day you begin to sense that your experiences have direction. Your pain had instruction. Your solitude had preparation. Your emotional intensity had refinement, and your intuition has been guiding you toward alignment with something greater than comfort or survival. Purpose, for many chosen individuals, does not begin as a clear mission. It begins as a pull, a subtle inner movement toward meaning. You may feel drawn toward helping others understand themselves, toward speaking truth when silence feels wrong, toward creating something that uplifts, heals, or awakens awareness, toward living authentically even when conformity would be easier. This pull can feel both inspiring and intimidating because it asks you to live in alignment with your deepest self, not the version shaped by expectations, fear, or approval. And alignment requires courage, because once you become aware of your purpose, even in its early form, you can no longer comfortably return to unconscious living. You cannot pretend not to see what you see. You cannot unknow what you have learned. You cannot silence your inner guidance without feeling the tension of disconnection. The more aware you become, the more responsibility you feel toward living truthfully. This is why many people experience resistance when their sense of purpose begins to awaken. Fear appears. Doubt surfaces, old insecurities try to regain control. The mind asks questions like, who am I to do anything meaningful? What if I fail? What if people reject me? What if I am wrong? These questions are natural because stepping into purpose requires stepping beyond familiar identity. It requires becoming someone you have never fully been before, not by changing who you are, but by expressing who you have always been more completely. And this process is rarely comfortable. Growth stretches identity. It dissolves old self-concepts. It asks you to release versions of yourself that once felt safe but now feel limiting. You may outgrow environments that once felt normal. You may distance yourself from patterns that once felt automatic. You may begin choosing authenticity over approval, clarity over comfort, truth over belonging. This shift can feel like loss at first, but in reality it is alignment replacing misalignment. It is your inner life and outer life beginning to match. As this alignment strengthens, something powerful happens. Your presence begins to change. Not in a dramatic or mystical way, but in subtle, observable ways. You become more grounded, more intentional, more aware of how your words, energy, and actions affect others. You begin responding rather than reacting, listening rather than assuming, observing rather than judging, and people notice. Some may not understand what feels different about you, but they sense it. They feel calm around you, or seen or understood, or challenged to reflect more deeply. Your presence carries weight, not because you demand attention, but because authenticity naturally draws awareness. When a person is deeply connected to themselves, others instinctively recognize the stability in that connection. This is one of the most important aspects of influence without force. Many people assume purpose means doing something large, visible, or recognized, but often the most profound influence happens quietly through presence, perspective, and genuine connection. The way you listen can heal someone. The way you speak truth can awaken someone. The way you live authentically can give others permission to do the same. Purpose is not always about what you do. Often, it is about who you are while you are doing anything. But purpose also involves service, not in the sense of self-sacrifice or losing yourself, but in the natural expression of your developed awareness. Everything you have learned emotionally becomes something you can offer. Your empathy allows understanding. Your resilience offers stability. Your insight offers clarity. Your healing offers hope, and this service does not require perfection. You do not need to have everything figured out. You simply need to be honest about where you are, what you have learned, and what you continue to learn. Authentic growth resonates more deeply than polished perfection ever could. However, stepping into purpose also brings new challenges. Awareness increases responsibility. Sensitivity requires boundaries. Compassion requires discernment. Not everyone will understand your path. Not everyone will appreciate your authenticity. Some people may resist the changes in you because your growth disrupts their expectations. This is where inner stability becomes essential. Purpose cannot depend on external validation. If your sense of direction relies on approval, criticism will shake you. If your confidence depends on recognition, invisibility will discourage you. But when purpose is rooted in inner alignment, it remains steady regardless of external response. This stability develops through continued self-connection, through listening inward, reflecting honestly, and maintaining emotional grounding. You learn when to give energy and when to preserve it, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to help and when to step back. Purpose is not endless output, it is balanced expression. And as you continue walking this path, a deeper realization begins to unfold. Purpose is not a destination you reach once and complete. It is a living process. It evolves as you evolve. It expands as your awareness expands. Each stage of growth reveals new layers of contribution, new forms of expression, new opportunities to align more fully with your authentic self. In the beginning, purpose may simply be healing yourself. Then it becomes helping others heal. Then it becomes shaping environments, ideas, or communities that support growth. Then it becomes embodying wisdom through presence alone. There is no fixed endpoint, only continuous unfolding. And perhaps the most profound shift of all is this: you stop asking, "What is my purpose?" and begin living in a way that expresses it naturally. Your choices reflect your awareness. Your actions reflect your values. Your life reflects your inner truth. At this stage, the emotional and psychological experiences that once felt overwhelming now feel meaningful. Loneliness becomes sacred space for reflection. Sensitivity becomes a tool for connection. Intuition becomes trusted guidance. Healing becomes ongoing refinement. Everything that once confused you now supports you. You begin to see your life not as a series of random events, but as a coherent journey of becoming. And with that understanding comes peace, not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of direction. You may still face challenges. You may still feel deeply. You may still encounter uncertainty. But beneath it all, there is steadiness, the quiet knowing that you are where you need to be in the process of unfolding who you are meant to become. This knowing changes how you move through the world. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. You no longer search endlessly for validation, you stand in authenticity. You no longer fear your depth, you live through it consciously. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to trust the journey itself. Because everything that shaped you, every emotional wave, every period of silence, every intuitive nudge, every moment of growth has led you here, to awareness, to alignment, to purpose in motion. You are not finished becoming. You are only beginning to live as who you truly are.